He looked me dead in the eye and said I had no right to question him. Not a flicker of hesitation, not a breath of apology, just that cold, flat, final. And every person in that room let it happen. His girlfriend, her parents, my future in-laws. They all stood there and watched him speak to me like that, and not one of them said a word. That was the moment I understood something I hadn't wanted to understand. This family I had been pouring myself into. It was never going to pour anything back, and I had a wedding to plan. I am not someone who asks for much. I never really have been. My mother raised me to believe that love is something you earn, that if you just give enough, do enough, show up enough, people will love you back the way you need. So that's what I did. I showed up for my fiance's family like they were my own, helped with whatever they needed, made myself available, answered calls, redirected my own plans when something came up for them. I was genuinely trying because I wanted to belong somewhere. I thought I did belong somewhere. My fiancé, we'll call him Daniel, has a younger sister. We'll call her Claire. Claire had been dating this man for a while. He was older, 40 at the time, now 41. He carried himself like someone who expected deference, like every room he walked into owed him something. I noticed it, but I kept it to myself. He was Claire's choice. That wasn't my place. What became my place was the moment he decided to speak to me the way he did. I won't go deep into the original incident here. The short version is that I questioned something he did. Reasonably, calmly. And he looked at me and said, "Let's get one thing clear. I don't have to justify my actions to you." And then his girlfriend said nothing. His girlfriend's parents, my future in-laws, said nothing. Everyone just moved on like it hadn't happened. Like I was the problem for not moving on too. I am still not entirely sure what I expected, but it wasn't that. After that night, something shifted in me, not loudly. It didn't announce itself. It was quieter than that, like a door closing somewhere in the back of a house you've been living in for years. The holidays came and went. When the moment came where I was expected to greet him with a hug and a kiss, I didn't. I smiled. I kept it civil. But I didn't close the distance. And that small, quiet refusal, that 1 inch of self-preservation, became, apparently, an act of war. My mother-in-law pulled me aside. She was unhappy. My father-in-law had opinions. Claire had opinions. Suddenly, I was the one causing problems. I was the one making things difficult. The man who had spoken to me like I was nobody had faded into the background, and I was standing in the spotlight, being asked to just let it go. I kept thinking about how I'd gotten here, about how many times before this I had adjusted myself, softened myself, made myself smaller so that everyone else could be comfortable. And I had done it believing that one day they would see it, that one day the investment would come back. It didn't. This was my answer. What I noticed, what I couldn't stop noticing, was the pattern forming around Claire. She had been living with her parents before this man came along. Then she moved in with him. And now, slowly, the people who might have kept an eye on her were being pushed out. Daniel hadn't spoken to his sister since December. I wasn't welcome either. And this man had proven he had no problem going to my in-laws and shaping the story however it suited him. He was local to them. He had access I didn't. I told myself she was an adult. I still tell myself that. She has the right to make her own choices. But there is a difference between a choice and a slow erosion. And sometimes, from the outside, you can see the shape of something that the person inside it cannot. I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely hope I am wrong about him. but I am not going to keep putting myself in rooms where I am made to feel like the problem for noticing what I notice. My mother-in-law asked for my help with something a few weeks later. I told her I was very busy. I was. But I also knew that I was done being the person who gives and gives to people who won't stand beside me when it costs them something. That realization didn't feel good. It felt like a loss. But it was also, if I'm honest, the first thing in a long time that felt true. The wedding was the thing that clarified everything. Originally, Daniel and I had been planning a wedding with his family in mind. My family situation is complicated. I am no contact with most of them. So for a long time, the plan was built around his side, a venue, a guest list, a day shaped largely by people who, as it turned out, would not stand up for me in my own moment. We made a decision. We are eloping. Just the two of us, an officiant, a photographer, and somewhere beautiful. No announcement, no discussion. No one in his family even knows yet. And I'm not going to make it a conversation because it is not a conversation. Our minds are made up. When I tell you that decision felt like exhaling for the first time in months, I mean that. Something I had been bracing against without even realizing it just released. This day belongs to us. Not to the performance of it, not to the management of it, not to whether his sister's boyfriend feels welcome or respected or whatever word he would choose. Claire will be invited to the celebration party we're planning for September. She will not receive a +1. I already know that is not going to go over well. I already know there will be something said, something felt. Some version of me being the problem again, and I have made peace with that. Because I will not be uncomfortable at my own wedding celebration. That's not coldness. I want to be clear about that. It's just finally understanding that protecting yourself is not the same thing as being cruel. I should have learned that a long time ago. I'm learning it now. The morning after we made the elopement decision, I woke up and the first thing I felt was quiet. Not empty. Quiet. There is a difference. Daniel made coffee. We sat at the table together and didn't talk about any of it for a while. Then he looked at me and said it was going to be okay. I believed him. That was new too. Believing someone when they said that. I thought about Claire that morning. I thought about whether I had done everything I could. I decided I had done what I could do without destroying myself in the process. Sometimes that has to be enough. By that afternoon, I had drafted a message to a photographer. Something small, something real. Just us. Somewhere we actually wanted to be. On a day that would actually belong to us. That September party is still coming. The harder conversations are still coming. But for the first time in a long time, I stopped dreading them. What I have now, what Daniel and I have chosen, is ours. Nobody gets to stand in the middle of it and tell me I owe them something. That man will never hear another word from me. He got exactly what he was owed, which was nothing. If you were in my shoes, if you had been in that room and heard what I heard, what would you have done? Would you have walked out that night or stayed and said nothing until morning? Tell me in the comments. I read every one, and if this story hit close to home, subscribe. I've got more like it.